and nobody else's. So that happened in Las Vegas as well. And, you know, I saw Mike Tyson's one-man show on HBO. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. It's really interesting. I mean, he's I think I want to say he's calmed down in his age, but it seems like he kind of went. You know, he's kind of calmed down a bit. You know, it seemed like after the hangover thing, he kind of got back in step with society. That was kind of his big coup in terms of changing, you know, how people perceive Mike Tyson. So now he's this very lovable guy nowadays. And I think there was some kind of documentary or something about him and the pigeons as well. I thought I saw on television as well.
No, I didn't see the documentary about him and the pigeons. But what is it with fighters and birds? Like in Sylvester Stallone's movie Rocky, remember? He had the bird coop up on the rooftop. Yeah,
I'm not sure. Although he was chicken the chicken, you know, maybe it's because of an exercise thing or wanting to fly. You know, wanting to fly now.
Yes, that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to say the least in terms of that as well. I mean, it's great to be able to you know, to see that kind of dynamic. But let's talk a little bit about you, because you have so much stuff going on too, and that's one of the big reasons why I wanted you back on. First of all, let's talk about this project that you're a part of. It's called Profiles of Hope. They did a really good, interesting profile of you on their website as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was asked last year to do a keynote speech at the LA County Department of Mental Health, and I've been doing keynote speaking for probably 15 years, but since my journey with stage 4 breast cancer, I had stage 4 breast cancer. I had breast cancer 3 times in the past 9 years because, like most Asians, I'm an overachiever. Can't do that just once, Mark, with a Q. I got to do that 3 times, and then the 3rd time it went to stage 4, which, if you don't know, is the worst. Stage 5 means you're dead. So in 2011, I was given 6 months to live by the doctors, and I miraculously, through a long, sort of amazing story, reversed the disease completely, and I'm now cancer-free. I'm writing a book about how I exactly did that. But part of what I do stand-up comedy, and I do storytelling and spoken word events, and I give metaphysical sermons, and the content is my journey with cancer and how I got through it and some of the lessons that I learned. And so that was the content of my keynote speech at the LA County Department of Mental Health. And somebody who was sitting there listening to that speech turned out to be involved with the Profiles of Hope campaign, which is an Emmy Award-winning campaign that interviews people who are in the public eye who have dealt with some sort of mental health issue and come through on the other side of it and are willing to tell their story. So it's these inspirational interviews. And I was asked by her if I would be willing to tell my story on camera, and I was a little reluctant at first because I tend to be a very private person. They wanted to come to my house, and I didn't even want to be on an episode of my own show, House Hunters, when I was looking to buy a house, because I just wanted to keep my private life private. But this felt different to me. It felt like I had an important message to tell my story and come out of the cancer closet. There's this expression, we are only as sick as our secrets, and I had kept my journey with cancer a secret because I felt ashamed or embarrassed or like a failure, and that was all just ridiculous, and I wasn't allowing the people who love me to rush in and help me. And I was literally, when I came out of the cancer closet, loved back to life. And I wanted to share that story with anyone who wanted to listen, and so a camera crew came to my house and was there all day asking me questions about my life now and my life then. And I'm really so proud of the finished piece because they took hours and hours of the interview and condensed it into a 10-minute segment. And if you go to YouTube and you type in Profiles of Hope, Suzanne Whang, you can see that there's also a Profiles of Hope app, and there's a dedicated website. I think it's profilesofhopela.org or .com. And it has turned into, there's a 30-second PSA that they've been showing on the KTLA news during commercial breaks, and they've also been showing the 30-second PSA in movie theaters across Southern California during the previews. There's a big billboard. It's me and Michelle Enfield, who's a transgender Native American, and there's Applediap from the Black Eyed Peas. The three of us are in the brand new episodes of Profiles of Hope, and it's just been a glorious thing because at the very end of the PSA and at the end of the interview, they tell you if you are struggling and you need help, if you have any sort of mental health issue going on, then to contact the LA County Department of Mental Health's hotline number, which is the 1-800 number, so you don't have to live in LA to take advantage of it. Too many people don't reach out for help, and then they end up ending their lives and suffering in silence, and we were not meant to go through things alone. So I'm just very, very happy that I said yes to it and broke through my resistance to wanting to do it. And I don't know if you got to see the PSA or the interview, but yeah, I think it's a magnificent thing that they're doing.
Yeah, I have to let Mauro Ranallo know about that because he's, first of all, I don't know if you know who Mauro is, but really great announcer. He announces boxing and MMA, and he's the currently one of the commentators over at WWE. But he has always been very vocal in terms of being bipolar, and he's an advocate for mental health. He feels that it's being overlooked and underfunded. So we'll have to let him know about that.
You have to. And also, another person who's been featured on Profiles of Hope is Maurice Bernard from General Hospital, who has also been very public about his struggle with depression. And I think that it's so important. I think that there's still a stigma. I cannot believe that we're not talking about it. I mean, it's 2016. When are we going to start talking about mental health? And also the fact that when people are feeling suicidal, I reached a point where I felt suicidal. And part of how I got there is because I was keeping it a secret and not letting anybody in and not allowing people to come in and help me and be nurturing. I don't know if you know many people who have or had breast cancer, but all the women that I've met who have or had breast cancer have a history of saving and fixing and rescuing and nurturing and taking care of and prioritizing everyone else but not themselves, not taking care of themselves, not being self-nurturing. Before I got cancer, I was eating junk food. I was not drinking water. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't meditating. I was trying to be all things to all people and running around, running on fumes, saying yes when I meant no some of the time. And getting breast cancer, because breasts are about nurturing. It's just an interesting symbolic thing. Breasts are about nurturing. So if you have breast cancer, there's a level of self-nurturing in my experience that wasn't happening. And so I learned so much about really taking care of myself that I cannot be any good to anyone. I can't give water from an empty well, and that's what I was trying to do. And now I make sure that I am doing great, that I am eating healthy and sleeping well and being creative and allowing love in and staying still and meditating and having balance. And I can give to other people from my overflow and still be full. And so now I bask in the present moment, and I'm grateful, and I'm taking good care of myself. And I think that that's the best thing that we can encourage each other to do as adults is to make sure that there's a balance between self-care and caring for others.
I think, a lot of it, I think, is, a lot of us think we can just tough it out. I mean, we feel that, sometimes that we're just, that's really kind of old school kind of thinking, too. The fact that we can tough things out, we don't need anybody's help for it, that really we don't need anything for it. And it's kind of ridiculous to be able to think that, but especially if you're having a long-term illness or a mental illness or something like that. Sometimes in terms of mental illness, you're not even knowing that that's going on with you right now. So, but in terms of an illness, sometimes you think that you have to be strong for yourself, and somebody just got to realize that that sometimes you just can't be,
right.
that you do need help.
And there are people that are committing suicide because they think that what's going on with them, that they're just all alone and no one will be able to relate to them because they're not talking about it. And all you need to do is reach out for help. There's a hotline number on the Profiles of Hope website, and you can just talk to somebody and talk it through, and really just knowing that other people have been through this and have come through on the other side. I mean, I reached a point when I was suicidal one night. It was 2008, and I had a grapefruit-sized tumor covered in blood and pus sticking out of my chest. And it's a long story of how that ever got to be like that. And I was in so much physical pain, and I was unable to sleep because of the physical pain, and painkillers never worked for me. They would make me nauseous or make me feel crazy, and so and they wouldn't even fix the pain. So I was in intense physical pain and couldn't sleep for about 3 months. And the combination of those two things, plus I wasn't out of the cancer closet, so I was trying to just tough it out by myself. And one night I was by myself in my apartment because the guy I was dating at the time felt like it was too inconvenient for him to drive in rush hour traffic to come and help me. Don't worry, he's no longer my boyfriend. And so I was by myself, and I was in pain, and I couldn't sleep, and I was looking for these gauze bandages that I needed to replace to go over the tumor, and I couldn't find them anywhere, and I literally just snapped, literally started screaming and throwing things and breaking things, and I just couldn't take it anymore, and I just thought, you know what, I'm done. And then I got the idea I needed something to solve the physical pain and to put the physical pain to an end because I couldn't take it anymore. And I decided to kill myself. I thought, yay, I have a plan that will work because I'll be dead and then I won't have physical pain. So I got very excited about this idea, and I started running around my house looking for different ways to kill myself, and I got really upset because I realized I don't have a gun because I'm a pacifist, and I realized I don't have rope to hang myself with, and I had switched to all non-toxic, natural, organic cleaning products, so I couldn't even drink Windex or anything like that, and I thought maybe I could use a kitchen knife, but then that would hurt, and the whole point is I don't want to hurt anymore, and it was like an episode of I Love Lucy, just me running around screaming and crying because I couldn't find any way to kill myself that would work. And eventually I got so exhausted from all the running around that and then I looked at my dog, Bonsai. I had a pug named Bonsai, and he was shaking because he was trembling because he was so afraid of me. He'd never seen me like that. And then I thought, oh no, who would take care of Bonsai? So I picked him up and got into bed, and because of all the screaming and crying and running around and breaking things, I think I actually finally had a catharsis of emotion that needed to come out, and I got into bed, and for the first time in 3 months, I fell asleep. I fell into a deep, deep, deep sleep, and when I woke up the next morning, I realized I didn't want to kill myself anymore, and so I'm so glad that I didn't. And if anybody who's listening deals with depression or any sort of mental health challenge and is considering taking your own life, please reach out for help. Please talk to a friend. Please call a hotline. Please realize that it gets better, and you may not feel the same way tomorrow.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least in terms of, physical pain is one huge thing. The ability to overcome that and all that as well. And it was pretty much a godsend that you couldn't figure out how to do it. It seems like there was just so many things against you doing that. Right. That night, and then just at the point when you think you're about to do it, you go and you were able to fall asleep again, and that's kind of a miracle there, in terms of
it was a miracle.
Recovering. So, yeah,
it was a miracle, and I'm really grateful that now I have a lot of people around me that I've let in. In fact, my friends, when I finally came out of the cancer closet back in 2011. I received such a tsunami of love and support. People just came in by the droves, my friends who I've loved for my whole life. People came over and said, "Finally, you've been gypping us out of half of a friendship." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "When we're not doing well, we tell you and you rush in and love us back to life. When you're not doing well, you don't tell any of us. So we don't get the opportunity of rushing in and loving you back to life and reciprocating. We're ecstatic. You're finally not gypping us." And I had never thought of it that way before. I had only thought, oh, I don't want to be a burden to anybody. And they would say,